One that impacted me was my husband. If you read the story that I wrote about, he had his whole history about suffering under the communists, and he hated. And the other are the people around me, the people in the armies, in the soldiers around me, that they devote for the country. They were so kind. They loved the country. They fought. They sacrificed. And all those things I see day by day impact me and build up my love for the country. The Americans came to our country. They were so nice, very nice. But they don't understand, they didn't understand our culture. That is the key problem. They didn't understand. We love them because we know that they come to help us. But the key thing that they didn't understand us, that our culture, our tradition. And that's the reason why they don't understand the communists. My stand was very firm. We belong to the South, and we love the South Vietnam because that is the opportunity for us. Since 1954, our country divided into two sections, South and North. And a million people evacuate from the North, run away from the South, from the communists to move to the South. And we carry with us our culture, our own books and everything that we wrote. And whatever we say that in that 20 years from 1954 to 1975, we save our culture. Because in the North, when the communists took over, since 1954, they destroy books, they kill all the writers, they kill everybody who have any idea, and they want people to be blind and follow them, listen to them, with no question whatsoever. So our culture was destroyed in the North, but we save it in the South. That's why the reason why we appreciate the American. The American didn't save our country at the end, but at least they gave us the 20 years to protect our culture. And that means very important for the future of our country. Without them, we lost everything. Our stand in the world, we didn't think that we had to fight to protect our country. Because you remember after the Geneva Convention, the Vietnam divided into South and North. And we stay in the South, and the North people invade the South. And that is, we have no choice. We see that the war, we have to fight back to protect our South Vietnam. I have been in several jobs, and the last two jobs were with banking. The first one was with the Vietnamese bank, and then after that I applied to First National City Bank, which is American bank, and I worked with them for over 1 year before they evacuate us to US. In 1975, April 23rd of 1975, that's the date we left Vietnam. We can't live with communists. We have no choice. They order all the American officers to leave the Saigon office because it was not safe for them to stay in Saigon anymore, bombarding and everything. And so we only have the Vietnam local staff stay in the office. And the one in charge at that time, he got the instruction, the cable telex from head office, and giving us the instruction, that the promise that we will evacuate you if you want to go with us, and we will take care of your welfare in the US. Then he also told us that you have to live in secret. You cannot tell anyone, not your family, not your relative, not your friends. You have to go as you go to work. They also told us, that is the bad part, that you can only leave, we only take you and your direct dependents from Vietnam, which are my husband and my daughter. And I am the only child, so I told them right away that I can't leave my mother at by herself. I cannot leave her at home. So that's the reason why my mother was the only parent who could accompany us. But for us at that time, we didn't enjoy anything at all. Our heart was broken and we were so worried. I was worried about my husband. I don't know where he was. And I was worried about my country, and everything was so sad. It was like, our feeling at that time was like numb. You can't believe it, how sad we were at that time. It's just unbelievable. In just one moment, and then we left everything behind. We left our country, our friend, relative, our house, and whatever we have, we left behind. Left the country empty-handed. Well, our first reaction, as I mentioned to you, I was numb. My reaction mostly is like negative. And we arrived into Camp Pennington in the middle of the night, rainy, cold. For us in June, it was very cold for us. We came from Vietnam, so tropical region. So it was very, very cold, and we didn't have sweater or anything. And we walked in the dark. So our reaction of the America at that time, that we were so scared. First of all, we didn't have any knowledge. We were not prepared. We were not prepared for this evacuation at all. All along, I don't know, during the war, we can never thought of it. At least I can speak English, but language was very difficult for me. It was the first challenge because whatever I talk, people can hardly understand me. And whatever they talk, it takes me a while to figure out half of that. You can imagine how bad it was, and the feeling numb and deaf. It's very difficult. Another thing, the challenge was that we had nothing. Nothing at all, not even clothing. We only one pair of clothes. And it was so difficult for us to find anything to wear. And I had to cut my husband and my daughter's hair by myself and everything. And I let my hair long. We didn't have money. But later on, the bank lent to us some money. They lent to us half year of salary for us to start our life, $3,000 for us to start our life in the country. And then another difficulty was the transportation.
Yeah.
My husband drove a little bit in Vietnam. He drove his Jeep in Vietnam, but not in the US. So we have to depend on others to pick us up or take the public transportation. And it took forever. And I was so weak. When we came to this country, I was so weak. I can just like faint easily. There's so much of pressure. Yeah. And another thing, that only 2 days after we arrived in Los Angeles, after we left the camp, and only 2 days later we had to report to work. We were not prepared at all. We had no clothing, nothing, and we went to work. But good thing that they have someone to pick us up for the first 2 weeks. Another difficulty, this is a lot, is we're homesick. We miss our home, we miss our relatives, we miss our friends. And another thing, that we were so worried about them. We don't know what happened to them. Only our friends who escaped from the north went to the south and told us about what they went through. Many of them had to kill even their own parents in order to go with the communists, in order to be accepted in their party. They have to kill their own parents, their own family. They're not human beings anymore. I had only one niece and her husband, and she lives in Connecticut, which is far away from me. And the first time we called each other, we were crying on the phone. We were not able to talk. We got to find each other, at least one, the only relative we had in the US. Another thing that I have to say, that the Americans are very kind. Very, very kind. Very open-minded. But another thing that Americans, sometimes I say naive about the world, too naive around the world. They say black and white, but they don't recognize there is a gray area in the middle. That gray area is a dangerous zone. The dangerous zone that you don't know who is your enemy and who is your friends. And just like I go back to the war in Vietnam, you remember there was the My Lai, the court case that brought some American soldier going to the court for killing the Vietnamese civilian. We in the Vietnam, we understand the reason why they kill. Because those soldiers, we know them, that our relative came home and told us, he gave away and giving out candies to children. They love children. They were so kind to children. And everybody loved him. But at night, those people kill them. Not because they want to do it, but because the communists. But the communists, they come at night when the American and the Vietnamese, South Vietnamese soldiers went back to their center. And then that's when the communists, the Viet Cong, came over to their house. They say, you have to do this, you have to do that, otherwise I will kill your whole family. So they have to listen. Daytime you have to be their friend, but nighttime you have to kill them. And there was one man, he was so kind, and his wife was pregnant, and they came over, he said, you are the part of the American. So they killed his wife who was pregnant right in front of him, opened up her womb, pulled out the fetus. And then next they killed his son, the baby of 2 years old. And last they killed him. They let him suffer all through that. And then they cut his head, chop his head and hang it on the pole. You can't believe the Viet Cong. They are not human beings, they are devil.